Turning now to presidential politics here at home, Donald Trump is yet again hinting that perhaps he will invoke Bill Clinton's past marital infidelities at the next presidential debate. During an interview yesterday in New Hampshire, in fact, the GOP nominee was asked if he would attack Hillary Clinton on that particular front during their second face-to-face matchup. And Donald Trump's response, and I do quote, "We'll see what happens," end quote.
You didn't mention Bill Clinton and his past affairs. You may do this in the second debate?
Well, she was very nasty to me, and I was going to do it, and I saw Chelsea sitting out in the audience, and I just didn't want to go there. I thought it would be too disrespectful. I just didn't want to do it, but she was very nasty. We'll see what happens, but I just didn't want to put it there. It's a hard thing to say in front of somebody's daughter.
If it does come up, though, in the next debate, do you think maybe your past marital history is also fair game?
I guess. I mean, they can do, but it's a lot different than his, that I can tell you. I mean, we have a situation where we have a president who was a disaster, and he was ultimately impeached over it, in a sense, for lying. And so we'll see whether or not we discuss it.
You're not worried about your past history at all?
No, not at all. I have a very good history.
Secretary Clinton, the Trump campaign is signaling that they are poised to get personal about your husband's past, about your past. How will you respond at the debates, and what's your response today?
He can run his campaign however he chooses. That's up to him. I'm going to keep talking about the stakes in this election. I'm going to keep talking about my agenda. So, I'm not going to comment on how he runs his campaign. You'll be able to see, we have 2 more debates, what he says and what I say.
Peggy Noonan is a columnist for the Wall Street Journal, a CBS News contributor, a friend of the program, and it's great to have you, Peggy.
Thank you, Josh. I love to be here.
More on the body language that we just saw from the candidate in just a moment, but Trump surrogates are now also looking to push this very particular line of attack as it regards Bill Clinton's past, his infidelities. Yesterday, Eric Trump, Donald's son, called him maybe the worst sexist that's ever lived. Perhaps this was a logical conclusion to the campaign we have seen to this point, but what do you make of the fact that we've arrived here and actually remained here now 4 days out from the first debate?
How long do we have until the election? Are we 5 weeks out?
Yeah, we're 39 days.
39 days, okay. At 5:30 a.m. This morning, the Republican nominee was tweeting the words sex tape. Mrs. Clinton is in her happiness at having won, she believes, the debate on Monday, taken the wood to Trump as a rapacious businessman who enjoys it if you lose your house. Here's the thing. We got 38 days. This is a very great nation at a troubled time in its history. What we should be talking about is not sex tapes and beat up the billionaire businessman. It is very obviously entitlement spending. What are we going to do about Medicare and Social Security? War. What is America's role in the world, job in the world? What do we want to be doing? Both these people are asking for essentially 8 years of a job leading America. So what is their vision of where America should be in the world so that it can be safe, so that it can be prosperous? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
All of these things are really big. It is a cliche when people like us say, why aren't we talking about the serious things? But I think regular Americans want to hear the serious things and not this crap.
Do you?
That we are seeing.
You
I
feel
absolutely
that.
do. What is more dramatic than war and peace? What is more important than the entitlement check that you get each month? So many Americans are on disability, forms of Social Security, are worried about Medicare, are worried about getting older. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And health care costs. That's actually where they live, those concerns. They're worried about our culture. They want serious things to be said. I fault both these nominees for being essentially unserious, and when they try to be serious, uninteresting. They say nothing.
And so perhaps if we also look at these candidates, though, and they are, as a reflection of the electorate, the 2 people that the electorate has decided they want there, you say that I think regular Americans want to hear these things, but as it regards Donald Trump supporters, the polling suggests there's anywhere from 43 to 45% of an electorate right now that seems willing, if nothing else, to accept early morning tweet storms about sex tapes 39 days out from a general election?
I'm not sure anybody really wants that. You may mean that maybe up to 45% of the people are willing to support the man sending out the tweets.
Or want change at any cost.
Well, that's another question. Yeah. I mean, the fact is, somebody was saying on social media the other day, everybody wants, Washington, D.C. has the most punchable face in history, and everybody wants to punch it. And clearly, I mean, it's very obvious among Trump supporters, they feel this outsider with this unusual past, who does not himself love Washington, is a living punch against it. I get that. But still, at the end of the day, they feel even he stands for issues, and he ought to be talking about them, and she ought to be rebutting them.
Well, and I know that you, I know this is an office that you respect, and this is a process that you respect to attain it. And this seems personally very troubling for you, Peggy.
It is. It has been. Yeah. I have seen the circusization of American politics. American politics has always been antic, humorous, insufficiently serious, and yet at the end of the day, everybody does get serious. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it gets, you have a sense of gravity, or you should, when you walk into the, what used to be the voting booth and now is the pen they put you in. I am not seeing these two right now being equal to the end of the day. We're getting to the end of this thing. Josh, we got to get serious. Do you know the difference between her entitlement spending position and his entitlement spending position?
We have not spent a lot of time discussing it.
Well, it's key to hundreds of millions of Americans.
I feel as though we are talking to a degree about something that you referred to in your latest column, the politics of the shallows.
Yeah.
The role that the internet, and by extension social media, has played in this election. I mean, to think about the good old days of 2012, when Twitter was still in its relative infancy, and perhaps those discussions could be had. It seems now that that great mediocre middle just has its iron grip on this process.
I think one thing we're going to have to think about when 2016 is over is, when I was a kid in college, 1972 campaign, Tim Krause wrote a great book called The Boys on the Bus. It was about the men, mostly men, some women, who followed the campaigners for the presidency throughout the 72 election. They were guys who on that bus were serious. They were readers. They were reading books. They had been taught history. They had a deep sense of modern history, but also past history. These guys weren't dopes. It's changed a little bit. The education system in America has changed a little bit. People know less. I worry about my country whenever I think of things like jaywalking, the old late night Jay, I'm blocking on his last, Jay Leno thing, where he'd go to Americans on a street in LA and he'd say, so who won the Civil War? And they'd go, Hitler. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who was your favorite founder?
Yeah.
Benny Goodman. Do you know, it was crazy. I worry about America getting dumb for many reasons. One is the internet.
I want to be a glass 1/4 full and get you out of here on this one. The whoosh. I would read the entire paragraph. I haven't the time. I do encourage everyone to go, and Peggy Noonan does a beautiful thing with the language. But in turning these phrases, you speak about a candidate in Hillary Clinton with the wind at her back.
Yeah, she had. She won Monday night. She knew she won Monday night. It made her happy. The fact that she was happy made her a better candidate on the stump the next day. The audience could see it, and they yelled at her, and she knew she had the whoosh at her back. The whoosh is good fortune. The whoosh is knowing I just crushed it. The whoosh lasts days or weeks until it doesn't.
Yeah.
But when you see it, it's kind of a beautiful thing to see.
We just showed that clip of her arriving to the campaign event the day after. You also saw when she really jauntily ran up the steps of her plane getting on the plane. I mean, it's all the things said and unsaid.
Yes.
Thankfully, you're out there writing about both, Peggy Noonan, and as always, you make us better. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Josh, so much.